Graham Potter is out at Chelsea after about, I think, 7 months on the job. And there's a lot to say about what's gone wrong for Chelsea this season as they sit 11th in the Premier League, about 12 points back of a Champions League spot that they're not going to get with only 10 games remaining, um, with 38 points. So I'm going to start with sort of what went wrong for this Chelsea team this season. And I don't necessarily think it was very much Graham Potter's fault in a way. This is a Chelsea team with a lot of talent, and there's that talent has no business being in 11th place. But there's a big problem, and that is the ownership does not seem to have a plan. They're spending money extremely, extremely recklessly. I think 600 million this season, which is absurd. Um, and where this team is at in 11th, I don't think they're gonna be able. They're not gonna make the Champions League unless they somehow manage to win the whole thing, which is really their only hope left to make this any sort of a redeeming season and not a massive step backwards. And like really, this like 600 million, they're not going to be able to spend as much as they want next summer. This is the squad they're stuck with, and they've just proven again and again that they can't win games. They have a goal differential of -1. They only scored 29 goals in 28 games this season. That's less goals than Leicester, less goals than Leeds, almost as many as Bournemouth, less than Fulham, less than Aston Villa, less than Liverpool. You look at the top clubs; they're getting about 41. They've only given up 30, which is pretty low. But all of their games are just very, very sluggish. Um, there's no clear offensive attack. Nothing. There's very little creativity. This Chelsea team straight up looks dreadful, and definitely not the Chelsea of old. Definitely not a top six side. We've seen a team like Liverpool maybe struggle this season, but not this bad, even though they're only 4 points ahead. But they've at least found some form with a massive win about a month or so ago against Manchester United, and could maybe fight themselves into a European spot um, with what's left of the season. Now, I do think the timing of this decision makes very, very little sense for Chelsea. Um, they're coming up on a big game tomorrow against Liverpool, and then Wolves at the weekend, and then right back into the Champions League with Real Madrid, which, like I said, is their only chance to get anything out of this season. Um, if you were going to fire a manager, it should have happened 3 weeks ago before the international break. Um, After the tie against Everton, maybe. Um, there's to at least give a new manager, some time on the training ground with this team and most of the players who weren't on international duty, and to try and build something going into this Real Madrid game. But now, whoever it's going to be, probably just an interim. Some people floated Julian Nagelsmann's name out there, although I don't think that it makes a lot of sense for him. Obviously, it's Chelsea, but I don't. This club, like clearly, the ownership group has proven over the last 10 months or so that Todd Bowley's been in charge that they don't really have a plan. It's just throw money at the team and hope they perform, and they're not performing. Um, and I don't know what, as a coach, you could expect a guy like Julian Nagelsmann to do. I think it's going to be an intern. I don't really think there's anyone besides Nagelsmann that I would imagine taking this job. Even a guy like Conte, I don't see that happening. Lots of firings. This is like the 14th or 13th, maybe, Premier League coach firing. There's only 20 teams in the Premier League, which is insane. They've had 13 coaches fired this season. Um, and like April is typically not sacking season. We saw Conte go. Brendan Rodgers went the other day, um, and then Graham Potter soon after. Um, but anyways, this decision makes no sense right after the international break. Massive games against Liverpool, Wolves, and Real Madrid coming up. So hopefully they'll get some sort of new manager boost, but I doubt it, and I don't really see anyone getting hired for the remainder of the season. Their fixture against Real Madrid, I don't really give them a whole lot of chance of winning that. I think Real Madrid's just a better team, although Chelsea has a ton of individual talent that has repeatedly not shined through the season, but you never know when it'll choose to turn up. I don't think Graham Potter. A lot of like I was in favor of Chelsea hiring Graham Potter back in October or September, whenever Tuchel got fired. I wasn't so in favor of firing Tuchel, but Thomas Tuchel, but I feel like Graham Potter, he is very, very successful at Brighton with very limited resources. And he goes to Chelsea and has all the money in the world. And it really doesn't seem like ownership listened to him and decided what he wanted. Very much they just kind of signed whoever seemed cool to them and didn't really weigh his input so much. But a lot of the talk back in October, September, whenever he got hired, I don't remember the exact date, was that you have to give him time with this project. And I do stand by that as a club. If you want to really build something and be successful over the course of a decade with a manager, you have to you can't just take the first out whenever it comes up, and you have to go through it, go through the rough, which can be a first season struggle. Um, but it does not seem that teams in the Premier League are willing to do that, especially at all. Like I said, 13 managers fired this season. Like Patrick Vieira, I don't understand that decision at all, really. I know Chris Palace has been struggling, but at a certain point, though, there has to be a limit with it. Um, and Chelsea are in 11th. This is a team that has no business being 11th in the Premier League. They're arguably the fourth best team with individual talent. I'd say behind Arsenal, or maybe Arsenal, definitely Man City. I'd say definitely Liverpool. Um, Tottenham, maybe like they're a top 6 team. This team has the talent to be a top 6 team. It has no business being behind clubs like Aston Villa, Fulham, Brighton, Brentford, who all, to be fair, have had amazing seasons. But um, this team is a bad run of form away from being in 15th place, and that's not an acceptable spot for Chelsea Football Club at the moment. So we'll see what happens. Do I think this is the right decision to let go of Graham Potter? Probably. I don't really see him turning it around, at least this season, if they're wanting to try and salvage something from this season. But for the future, I don't know. Now going into other stuff at the weekend, Bayern Munich absolutely demoralized Borussia Dortmund. Um, and really, it was a game. I was very excited for this game. But then I think it was. Let me find the minute. They did win 4-2, but the 13th minute, the own goal from Kobel, where he comes out and just completely misses the ball. That's just absurd. And you really saw the life just flow out of Borussia Dortmund after that. I think Thomas Muller said something about it after the game, which said the Bayern players knew that this Dortmund team had nothing left. They were quite honestly gutted. Like just the intensity went out of everything. They looked uncomfortable with the ball. They didn't match. They definitely did not match Bayern's intensity after that 13th minute mark, which really sucked because they had looked very lively in the game up until that massive mistake by Kobel. That might be one of the worst goalkeepers I've ever seen. Um, they did kind of get back into it with 2 goals late in the second half, but it just didn't matter. This is a pretty massive game for the Bundesliga title push. This will put Bayern 2 points clear of Dortmund, who's in second. Bayern now in first. So a lot could still change, but right now Bayern's in prime position at the top of the Bundesliga leaderboard. And then some talk on Messi. It does seem that Messi will not be returning to PSG next year, and that seems to be a lot of the talk in the French media. Is that he's been giving less effort, and PSG and Messi himself aren't interested in a new deal. So I have to imagine he'll either end up at Barcelona. I think Barcelona is the most likely outcome. I will throw Inter Miami in there, but I'm not really sure how much they're even being considered. I haven't heard anyone else linked with him, so that will definitely be exciting. Um, Also, the new United States kits came out. They're okay, I guess. But that's it for the big news on the weekends. For the most part, trying to look back at the Premier League, anything crazy happened. Brighton Brentford, that was a thriller for sure. Um, and then Man City just absolutely demoralizing Liverpool 4-1. It's been a rough season for Liverpool, but Jurgen Klopp's the man. He'll continue to be the man as he should. Um, Nottingham Forest are probably a loss away from firing their manager at the moment. Um, it's not looking good for Steve Cooper. Um, and honestly, if they lose to Leeds this weekend, they're going to probably at the bottom of the relegation zone, probably in 18th at that point. And it's not going to be good. They gave him an extension earlier in the season when a lot of people thought he could get sacked, and it's kind of a weird move to fire a guy after giving him an extension earlier in the season. But the Nottingham Forest team has been struggling as of late. Um, and the relegation race is very lively. There's about really nobody safe up to 12th. Crystal Palace, Wolves, West Ham, Everton, Nottingham Forest, Bournemouth, Leeds, Leicester City, and Southampton are all about 7 points um, between all of them. So that'll definitely be interesting to see. I'll try and get back with the uploads as well as some football stuff coming up. A lot of NBA stuff as the playoffs get started. Probably not a lot of soccer stuff for a couple weeks as I try and focus on basketball. And it's national championships tonight, so should be fun. Anyways, remember to leave a like and subscribe, and I will see you guys hopefully tomorrow. I have no idea. I don't really upload regularly, but peace.